identify a cycle, and it is a very common thing to want to retreat, because if you remove the outside stimulus, then it's kind of like treating a disease. You can alleviate all the symptoms. You can address the runny nose, you can break the fever, you can address all those symptoms, you can ease the pain. However, if you don't treat that underlying disease, it's just going to be a matter of time before those symptoms start popping up again. So if you identified yourself in a pattern, in a cycle, and now you're aware of that cycle, so you've chosen to remove the outside stimulus and isolate yourself. So if I don't run into the stimulus, then I don't have to deal with the emotions or the repercussions of the choices that I make. That feeling of retreating and isolation, to me, just says a complete lack of not trusting yourself. You don't trust yourself to go back out and interact with these people because you don't trust yourself to make a different choices. You don't trust yourself to stop the cycle. You don't trust yourself. You don't have belief in yourself that you have the ability to create a different outcome. Does that sound pretty fair assessment? So what do you do with that? Again, for myself, it's great to remove the symptoms so I no longer have to deal with the discomfort, but I want to master myself. I want to, no matter what happens around me, if the whole world comes crashing down, I don't want to be devastated because of that. I want to be able to choose my emotional state, and I believe that we're put here to choose our emotional state. I mean, that's really what separates us as human beings from other creatures on this planet, is that we have the ability to make that choice. We have the ability to choose our emotional state instead of just going through the motions. But so many of us run on autopilot. It's like, how do you stop that? And basically, for myself, it was a matter of building my belief in myself again. And it was very, very humbling. It was very humbling to go back to people that I have done wrong or said something wrong or said something hurtful and apologize to them. Or to say, okay, I know that I used to feel very justified in lashing out or lashing out at somebody and defending myself. Well, they started it. They came at me like this. They attacked me like this. They threw this up first, or they did that first. So naturally, I did that back to them. Or of course, I did it back. I had no other choice. I had to do it back. I had to defend myself. And when I started taking 100% responsibility over my own choices, regardless of what anybody else did, that even if I felt justified in that backlash that I gave to them, I would still have to go back and apologize if I wanted to create a different circumstance. So as humbling as it was, as much as I had to kind of suck it up, and as much as it can be kind of kicking and screaming, the ego, the personality, doesn't like being wrong at all. It likes to be right. And it definitely doesn't like going back and asking for forgiveness or apologizing to somebody, especially, gosh, that's the toughest thing ever for me, was apologizing to somebody whenever I felt that I didn't do anything wrong. You need to be coming back to me and apologizing. You need to change your behaviors. You need to bring this to me because I don't deserve this. What I found is that just kept the cycle going, because that's what the other person is going to do. So if the other person is going to be in that cycle, and I would say 95, if not more, % of the people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis are in this same cycle, which is what makes it so challenging for you to go out. Because you're trying to make different choices. If you think about it like this, it would be like taking somebody who's trying to get clean off of heroin, and then have every single person that they interact with all throughout the day offering them heroin. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing, except for one's taking place externally and the other one's taking place internally. So since it's the interaction with people that's causing this drug-induced cycle to continue within yourself, then of course, removing all that outside stimulus would be ideal. However, to keep functioning and to really find your happiness, you're not going to find it in isolation. Not at all. Because that just makes you feel, I can imagine it would make me feel powerless instead of empowered. I want to know that I can confront any situation. I want, no matter what you guys throw at me. I mean, even like doing these workshops, I encourage you to throw at me your most challenging situations, because I would love the opportunity to explore within myself how we can resolve these things. And it's not because I want to know everything or I want to have all the right answers. It's because I know how wonderful this peace feels, and I so want everybody else to experience it too. And if there's holes in my philosophies, I want to find them too. I want to know where they're at, because this is just my truth from my own experience. So for me, it was really looking at kind of that inner child, that inner child that we have, that inner victim that we have. I believe that majority of us have a belief system that stemmed from when we were very young, that we aren't capable, or we're not worthy, or we're not valuable, that we're not deserving. I myself, about a year and a half ago, would have fought you tooth and nail that I love myself as a person and that I deserve everything that this world has to offer that's wonderful and good. I would have argued till I was breathless that I loved myself and valued myself. And then I had to question, okay, if I really, really love myself, why am I still having all this crazy stuff show up around me? If the world around me is a reflection of what's within me, I think that I love myself, but why am I not having love shown 360 degrees around me? So again, I had to do that. I'm going to suppose, what if? What if I don't really love myself? What if at the core, unconscious, middle essence of my being, buried in that subconscious mind somewhere, is a belief that I'm not worthy, or that I'm not valuable, or that I'm not capable, or that I don't really love myself? If that were true, then I would have reflected back what I'm having reflected back. So I just kind of stepped into that what if. Okay, I surrender what my mind tells me. My mind tells me that I love myself, but obviously I'm not getting that reflected back. So I'm going to surrender what my mind says, and I'm going to go with the belief that I must not love myself. And that, again, if you go back to some of our earlier workshops, and I know that we've definitely talked about this before, that your mind has a filter, and it's going to filter out everything that it feels isn't important and everything that it feels is not a threat. And it's going to actively seek out situations, people, beliefs, circumstances that back up what your true belief is. So you could be surrounded by the most lovely environment imaginable, but if you really believe that everybody's out to get you, all that your mind's going to do is see, and is going to interpret and misinterpret and perceive the things and misperceive the things around you to show how everybody is out to get you. So if you're operating, or when I was definitely operating subconsciously from a victim mentality, when you're the victim, you don't have to take responsibility. As long as somebody else is at fault or to blame for your circumstances, then you're not responsible for them. That's kind of nice in a way, because then you can displace all the stuff that you don't like, but it's definitely not empowering. And it definitely isn't going to get you where you want to be in life. At least it wasn't getting me there, for sure. So when I had to recognize that I had this inner victim that was going on, and that any time that I pointed outwardly for why something was wrong and didn't own full responsibility for it, I realized that I was serving that inner victim, and I was creating and perceiving the world around me to back up a belief that I'm a victim. So it was stopping me from taking responsibility for myself. And with that victim mentality, you just can't empower yourself with that victim mentality. So as long as you say, well, I can't go out and form relationships with people because they push my buttons, and I can't control my reactions, all that you're doing is continuing to create a story that keeps you the victim, so that you can keep blaming other people, and you can stop taking, or continue to not take responsibility over your life and the choices that you make. Because regardless, bottom line, no matter what someone says, does, thinks, feels, reacts, whatever towards you, it is absolutely, solely your choice how you respond to that. So I would say subconsciously, you have a belief system that you're a victim, or you're not worthy of happiness, or something like that, one of those non-serving belief systems. And personally, I don't really care what the belief system is within me, because it's subconscious. It's rooted down deep anyway. I don't care where it came from, why it's there, what it's like, and if it's a victim or child or whatever it is that I'm serving. The fact is, it's not working for me. The fact is, it's all pretty much the same results. So be it not feeling worthy or loving or deserving, bottom line is that you have a misperception over how amazing you are. and what it is that you really deserve in this life. And so you're subconsciously making choices that put you into circumstances and around people and places and events that are going to back up that non-serving belief system. So it's going to take a matter of deciding, first of all, that you are in charge. I am in charge of my emotional state. I'm the one that controls it, and I'm the one that's in charge of it. And I am determined to live a life of bliss and peace, happiness, abundance, fulfillment. I'm determined. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do. And if that means that I have to bite through my tongue till it is bleeding to stop myself from saying or reacting in a certain way, by golly, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do it until I'm proven wrong. I'm going to do it until I am proven that this method doesn't work. Now, all my mentors, the happiest people that I know, the most fulfilled people that I know in life, control their emotional state. So if they are doing it and it's working well for them, I might as well try it. Because 98% of the people that I know are suffering, and they're doing the same thing that I'm doing. So I'm going to try doing things a little different. And it took me, it's a real ownership and a real responsibility. And for myself, I had to kind of create some anchors. Like when I feel that which again, I really encourage you to start to monitor how you feel physically, the physiological effects that take place in the body. I don't know what they're going to be for you. For me, I can feel like either like I got punched in the stomach, like a hit right here to the gut, like just a queasy kind of nauseous, uneasy feeling, or I get a tightness in my chest and it's kind of hard for me to breathe, and I feel myself going like this, and I feel myself just kind of getting into a reactive state. Now, I'm not a violent person by nature, so like lashing out violently never really comes to my mind, but I can be very, very malicious and quick-witted and sharp with the tongue, and I have a pretty good memory, and I can pull up all this stuff from the past and throw it right at you and try to bring you down. It's so sad to like see myself that way, but that's the truth. Take away all the fluffy, nice, wonderful things about Chrissy, and when you get to that survival self, that ego, that personality, this really is what has been happening. Now, because it had been happening inside my mind for so long, again, felt totally justified and didn't see it as this nasty thing that it actually was. However, when you strip away all the fluffy stuff, that's the truth. I can be really, really, really malicious and really, really hurtful. And a lot of times, I was that way with myself. I spoke to myself that way. I was unforgiving with myself. I was impatient with myself. I was frustrated with myself, mad at myself, upset with my own inadequacies, upset with my own lack of perfection, upset with the choices that I made, upset with what was, a lot of it really had to do with myself. And so that's when I'm projecting onto other people, which is why I think that a lot of the great spiritual teachers teach that you should love yourself or love your neighbors as you love yourself. And I think that's a big reason that our society is as chaotic as it is because majority of people are running around not loving themselves. So if you don't even love yourself, how could you possibly love the person next to you? And some of us think, oh, well, I love them more than I love myself, and I give to them more than I give to myself. If you really, 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 really loved other people, you would make sure that you had absolutely everything that you needed so that you could always be around to help and assist that other person. So anything that doesn't demand the absolute best for yourself first, so that you can give the absolute best to everybody else around you, then that's a telltale sign that there's some self-love lacking. So for myself, I had to kind of step outside and really see my motivations and where this stuff was coming from. And I would have to stop myself whenever I felt that anxiousness come up, that anxiety come up. And for me, my anchor was like I would feel myself kind of coming up like this. And it's kind of funny now that I think about it, because if you notice, like this kind of motion is coming up where? To my mind and up here. And it's trying to get me out of my body so that I stop feeling and paying attention to what's going on here. So I can block out everything else and focus on survival. How interesting. That just came to me right now as we're having this conversation. So what I do, I bring myself back into my body. And I do this by taking a very deep breath. My husband takes it very personal when I have this sigh. And you're giggling because I know you must be a sigher too. It's a woman thing, I think, for majority, because I know a lot more women who do this than men. However, what I do when I feel all that stuff coming up and I feel this anxiousness and I feel myself kind of getting defensive and having to protect myself or survive, I go, and I let all that air out. And I sink back into my heart. I'm noticing now. I sink back into my body, and I say, okay, what do I know to be true? And I start going through this mental checklist of getting myself back into what's going to get me that ultimate outcome that I want, instead of just that default reaction mode. And sometimes, again, it's through gritted teeth. Especially, this is my ego really doesn't like this one. When I feel myself getting anxious, and then I have the inspired thought to bring myself back down, and I do that sigh. And then my husband says, well, what are you getting all huffy for? You know, and he takes it as a personal insult towards him, like he's such a drain for me to deal with that I have to get this great, dramatic sigh out, when really it has nothing to do with him. That sigh has nothing to do with him on that kind of personal level. In a way, it has everything to do with him, because I love him and I love myself enough to get myself back centered and grounded before I proceed with the conversation. But he takes it personal. Why? Because he's on defense. His mind is searching out for dangers. His mind is looking for all the things that are going to back up his belief system that he's at threat or in danger. Of course, my husband would tell you he doesn't feel consciously at threat or in danger in dealing with me, because again, I'm not at all a violent person or anything along those lines. However, subconsciously, he must feel the need to defend himself if he's raising his voice or, getting worked up himself. And my husband has a very, like a logical, analytical thought process and mindset, and he's a rationalizer. So when he thinks through things out loud, to me, how I take it as is almost like he's talking to a subordinate or like an employee, or being authoritative or kind of controlling or father-like. That's something that comes up for me a lot with him. I'll be like, okay, Dad, whatever you say, that kind of authoritative tone is how I take it. However, to him, he's just thinking out loud. He's not thinking, let me control this situation or put her in her place or, try to do anything. His thing has nothing to do with me, but I'm mistaking it and taking it personal and getting upset and frustrated that he's mistaken and taking personal what I'm doing. You cannot perceive in another person something unless you are doing it yourself. That's number one for me. The biggest game shifter for me was realizing that all the frustration, heartache that I was feeling in dealing with another person was all that upsetness that would come up in me because of the choices that they made or the actions that they were displaying. I could not even perceive. My mind would not even be able to perceive it as a reality or a possibility